Hey, Vinyl Community, Jeff here again, making another quick video about just some just stuff I got in recently. This is just new stuff to me, new stuff I got in recently. Pretty much everything here are due to drastic price drops. Most of these are from Amazon, and they are, again, the kind of things I look forward to when I put them on my wish list and I have that program monitor it, and I say when it gets below a certain amount, that's when I'll pounce. These are pounceable moments. So these dropped into reasonable price range, in my opinion. So I don't know what the recent surge is from this, and I'll explain in a second. But I got the James LaBrie Static Impulse album. This was recently reissued on vinyl for the first time. This is actually his 2010 album. Now, let's see, do I have it? I think I do. On Record Store Day earlier in the year, they released his, this is his first one, Elements of Persuasion, his first solo album. And this was released on Record Store Day. Great album, great album. So it's weird, I got that earlier this year. Then they released his next two albums, which included this one. And then, of course, I showed in a recent video where I picked up this one. Again, I don't know how these all happened because this one dropped in price also. This is his most recent one from 2022. And the price range dropped, a beautiful shade of gray. And so I grabbed that. Now, he's only had 4 solo albums. That one, The Elements of Persuasion, 2005. Then 2010, 5 years later. And then there's one in 2013, which is the only one I'm missing now on vinyl, is that. And then the 2022. So this is, and if you're not familiar, he's the Dream Theater vocalist. So, you know, in between all the work with Dream Theater, he puts these out. Now, I want to admit, you know, this album, when it came out, I remember buying this back in 2010. And was kind of shocked at first. I wasn't sure what to make of it, you know, because James LaBrie has a very melodic, just a powerhouse melodic vocal style. This song, this first song in this album starts off, and the singer hits it immediately, and it's that screaming, rah, 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 like an alt metal, you know, that 5-finger death punch, that kind of back and forth you would expect. The extreme vocals, I'm like, what the heck? And then when it comes to like the chorus, James starts singing, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Well, anyway, got a new drummer on this album from compared to the previous album, which the previous album from 2005 was Mike Mangini, who in 2010 joined Dream Theater. On this album, they had a different drummer, and that drummer ended up being the barking vocals, Peter Wildower. And I believe he's played in a lot of other bands overseas and stuff anyway. So he came in and started doing that. So this album has, James does most of the vocals, of course, but there are the aggressive vocal styles that go back and forth at different points. But when the first song started and it was first him, I'm like, what happened? What happened to James's voice? It just was kind of caught you off guard because it was the opening track. Opening vocals were his anyway. So you find that here. I think the album, he's trying to go a little more modern, aggressive with the dual vocal. So, you know, trying to stay relevant, I guess. Whereas this album is this is his newest album, very much more laid back. It's not even as heavy, or, you know, this album is just solid. This is heavier than Dream Theater stuff without having the, you know, the same type of extreme vocals. This gets even heavier. And the album that after that, the one I'm missing is, if I recall, I have the CD. If I recall, I think it might still have the dual vocals, but I'll have to double check that one day. All right, this is another one. I've been waiting on it. I know I'm late to the game. This has probably been out, what, a year now? But it dropped to $20, so I got the new Saxon album. Love this album. Have had, you know, listened to it digitally for months and months and months. Love the album. Love Saxon. They just, every album, it just seems like they're getting better and better. Not, you know, every album's great. I'm not seeing any weaknesses. I'm not seeing any signs of stopping. The guys put out consistently excellent metal. And this is their latest album, and it's right up there. I mean, it is just, they had some weak moments in the 90s, like a lot of bands, you know, but even then I love that stuff. But they have come back with a force to be reckoned with over the past 20 years or more, at least. I remember just, more than 20 years ago, they were coming back at the late 90s. It was just pound, pound, pound with great stuff. A lot of that stuff I don't have on vinyl. I've got some of the newer stuff. I've got most of the older stuff. But there is that years in the 90s which are a little harder to find. some of that stuff. But oh, love this. And when it dropped to 20 bucks, I'm like, how can I not get it? Now this is one that's been on my wish list for a long time, and I've watched it slowly decline. But when it hit $13, and realizing that it's probably not a huge amount of pressings, I thought, I'm going to grab this. Didn't know a whole lot about the band, but Lionheart, apparently they've been around since the 80s. And if you look at the chart in here, this has got, you know, some big-time people in here. This has got Dennis Stratton on it. He was the original guitar player back in the Iron Maiden days. You've got him. You've got Steve Mann, who has played with the Michael Schenker band. Sweet, Macaulay Schenker, Titan, Lionheart. He's been in. It's got like the roster. Lee Small from Shy, Rocky Newton from Air Race, Royal Blood, Macaulay Schenker, Michael Schenker. I mean, so these guys have a just a repertoire of stuff, and they've got this whole big chart on all the bands that they've played in, and you can see it's got UFO and MSG and Iron Maiden, and it's just great. Very melodic hard rock. Melodic hard rock. But again, they had, you know, they on and off had stuff over the years, I guess, but nice purple. But I am not familiar with much of their stuff. I was intrigued by the titles of the songs. So the album is called The Reality of Miracles. And this is probably just from my, you know, my leaning in the, you know, being heavily involved in the Christian music realm. Songs like Salvation, Thine is the Kingdom, The Reality of Miracles, Kingdom of the East. It's a lot of religious sounding stuff. Haven't examined the lyrics. I don't get the impression that it's necessarily got that on it. I think it's just you know, the way that it's worded. But I haven't read all the details to see, you know, if there's any versions of, you know, faith-based anything. But it's a really solid album. It's just right in that little, you know, that AOR, not AOR, hard rock, but very melodic, great stuff. This next one, this was not an Amazon purchase. I actually stumbled across this on Discogs. And the price on this has always been in the like $50 realm. Because it's a small release, a small batch. But I found somebody on Discogs that was selling it for $19. This is Legends Part 2 by Savior Machine. It is a double record set on green. Savior Machine, another Christian band. They would probably be classified best as like Doom. They're very slow and but they're not really heavy. They're not like heavy Doom, but they got that slow story. And it's a story-based stuff. And in this case, it is Legends Part 2. Now, I'm not going to pull it out. There's not a whole lot to show. It's pretty generic. The, what is the label? This was on, yeah, Flogger Records, I guess. There wasn't a whole lot. You know, it was a small pressing, and they were really expensive. Now, this is on the heels of the fact that I think it was earlier this year or maybe late last year that I got Legend Part 1. Now, there is a Legend Part 3, never been released on vinyl. So I was kind of glad to add Part 1 and Part 2. There's multiple versions, multiple colors. I got the green on one and the black on the Volume 1. And so I have, you know, digital and CD versions of most all of these, including 3. And then there's not a 4, but it's like a part 3, Part 2 of Part 3, something like that, I believe. It's basically their interpretation of biblical prophecy from a dispensational point of view. So you've got the whole, you know, rapture, end of war, Armageddon, last day stuff that I don't necessarily follow that line of thought when it comes to that particular topic, but musically and everything, I really dig these guys. I have for years, since they came out back in the early 90s. So I, you know, pick up their stuff as I can. And when I saw it drop to that, I couldn't resist that. I had to grab that. So, and then the last one I got was not actually through Amazon or Discogs, but it was from Boone's Overstock. In my last video, I showed the strike-in set that I got from them. But also around the same time, because of their Black Friday sale that went on after Black Friday and into to Monday and all that stuff, they had this, and I've kind of wanted it, but I'm not a big Picture Disc fan. But when it dropped down to $15, I had to grab the Banshee Mind Slave Picture Disc. This came out before the album came out. The album, or the the regular black vinyl. So this was the one that everybody was showing, and then Scott Waters started reissuing the Banshee stuff. And I have to tell you, so Banshee was an '80s band, and then they came back and they started doing this stuff. And this is a 2018 release, but I think the album itself, I forget what year it came out. It seemed like it was somewhere like 2012ish or so. I don't know. They've got this and like, what is it, one or two other ones that came out in the same time frame. So it's more modern stuff. Absolutely just almost perfect releases in my mind. This, it's, it just seems like so many 80s bands have come back with a vengeance. And have come back with some of the best sounding material. And this band is right there in my sweet spot. And so I bought this for a novelty. I didn't open it because I do have the other black vinyl, which is the one I'm going to spin. But, this was up there in price for a little bit because it's a very limited pressing. I don't think it's numbered, but I believe it was, only a handful of these were pressed. And I missed them when they were around. I don't know how all of a sudden they got some copies of these, but now you're seeing them for like $15, so I grabbed one. But the albums by them that have been reissued, go to No Life Till Metal, go check out Scott's label. He's got most of their stuff. And the band stuff in the 80s was what you would expect, great stuff in the 80s, but the stuff that they've brought forward now in the past 10 years, it is just absolutely sweet. It just really blows my socks off. Just some of the great stuff. Check them out if you haven't. Banshee, great band. That's all the new stuff for now. Christmas is right around the corner. I'm starting to see packages come in to my household from other people that have that weird, odd 12 by 12 shape. I don't know, but I think there may be some records coming my way. Thanks for watching. Rock on, rock hard.